The Compliance Perspectives podcast is sponsored by Athena, automated compliance training, an employee hotline, and case management all in one tool. Welcome to the Compliance Perspectives podcast. I'm Adam Turteltaub from the Society of Corporate Compliance and Ethics and Healthcare Compliance Association. Joining us today from Eindhoven in the Netherlands is Asaf Shalev. Asaf is Global Ethics, Risk, and Compliance Lead at DLL. And today we're going to be talking about the relationship with HR. Asaf, there's a lot of areas, as you know, where HR and compliance overlap and others where they're very complementary professions. Let's talk about them. How can HR and compliance best collaborate in the area of creating and sustaining an ethical culture?
Thanks for having me, Adam. First of all, I'm excited to discuss the importance of this effective collaboration and strong strategic partnership between the two functions, HR and compliance. This teamwork is crucial, of course, for fostering a positive and ethical workplace culture. So let me maybe start by emphasizing that the synergy between HR and compliance is not just a strategic advantage, it's essential also for sustainable growth and success of the business. So this collaboration is particularly crucial, I would say, for global companies in highly regulated industries to navigate various regulations, ethical considerations and cultural nuances. So when it comes to ethical workplace culture or the responsibilities of HR and compliance, I would say often intersect. Therefore, their collaboration is considered to be bidirectional, with each department supporting the other to create and sustain an ethical culture aligned with the business objectives. So they should work together towards common goals of fostering a high performing, inclusive, ethical, and compliant organization. And there are numerous areas of overlap. Just to mention some of them, the key areas of focus for this strategic collaboration may include psychological safety, speak up programs, leadership accountability to promote ethics and compliance, incentives and rewards for ethics and compliance, the training and awareness, employee surveys, misconduct investigations and disciplinary measures application, and even the organizational code of conduct itself.
Let's go deeper into the code of conduct. In some organizations, compliance own it, and others, HR does. But regardless, how can both disciplines work together to create a strong code of conduct?
But that's an important point, Adam. Well, it basically starts with perhaps one step before establishing a strong foundation of the organizational core values like integrity, trust, respect, inclusion, collaboration, and of course, ethics and compliance to support the company's strategy and the business objectives. So usually HR leads the crafting and refining of these core values to ensure they reflect the principles and desired behaviors of the organization. So now, regarding the code itself, HR and compliance should work together, to develop or update the code of conduct itself or associated training, communications, and awareness. As you mentioned, sometimes HR owns it, and in other organizations, it's compliance. But regardless, both functions should closely collaborate on this more cultural ethics and compliance, I will say North Star or compass of the organization. So this includes the content, the order of sections and subchapters, and even the layout, styling, and look and feel, the tone of voice, its adaptation to the organizational culture, and even delivery methods can be online and mobile versions with embedded navigation features. Also, a best practice is to create a comprehensive code that includes sections on the organizational core values. It should be human centric and include practical ethical dilemmas and scenarios to help the readers, the employees, to understand how to apply these values and their underlying behaviors and principles in their daily work. But Adam, it doesn't end there. Following its creation, both functions play a role in communicating and promoting the code within the organization to ensure that everyone follows it and it's being adhered by all the employees. So that's where the implementation campaign comes in. For example, HR can integrate the code into employee handbooks, to onboarding materials and trainings, and compliance can organize workshops and seminars to discuss real life scenarios and reinforce the importance of the code itself. And maybe one more important aspect. So it's about the leadership accountability to live the code and promote ethical and compliance behavior. So HR can ensure leaders are regularly evaluated on their adherence to ethical standards and code of conduct. So compliance can provide, for example, practical toolkits to leadership with examples of how to incorporate the code and the associated ethical business conduct into day-to-day operations. So by working together, both functions can ensure that the code is not just a document, but a living part of the organizational culture understood and adhered by all employees.
So, one area where you can really make a code of conduct come to life and become a part of the organization is in the area of incentives. And that's one area where compliance teams often struggle to gain traction. How can HR help change that?
Yes, this component can be quite challenging, but it doesn't have to be. HR can play a significant role by incorporating specific measurable behaviors that promote compliance and ethics into performance objectives as part of the basis for evaluations and promotion criteria. It can, ensures that employees who uphold the company's values and upholding to a certain standard of ethics and compliance are consistently recognized and rewarded. This is even more impactful in management and leadership evaluations to set the right tone at the top, which can inspire employees to do the right thing and helps shape the company's culture. So for this, I would say HR can use the Code of Conduct Compliance Toolkit for leadership I mentioned before as a basis for incorporating measurable ethics and compliance components into management performance evaluations. But also, beyond financial incentives, let's remember that non-financial recognition can be, by the way, also equally impactful. So, for example, HR can establish recognition programs like an ethical or compliance leadership award to reward employees who demonstrate, outstanding ethical behavior. And compliance, on the other hand, can support this by providing public recognition and career advancement opportunities for award recipients.
Let's talk about the other side, which is discipline. How can HR and compliance collaborate well there?
On the discipline side, HR and compliance can work together to ensure consistency and fairness, regardless of who is the official owner of the organizational disciplinary measures compliance framework. And I will give an example. In global multinational organizations, HR is usually in the best position to advise on the local labor law application of certain disciplinary measures, including what may be prohibited by local law or what are the common local practices, even if some measures described in the global organizational framework are not necessarily prohibited. So, therefore, HR can support compliance by localizing the global disciplinary actions compliance framework of the organization due to these certain local deviations or variations. So the important aspect here is that the harmonious collaboration between the functions on the discipline side is essential for maintaining fairness and trust within the company. Because if you have an inconsistent disciplinary actions or the application of such is inconsistent, so it will lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and can even challenge some legal consequences. So and I can also mention another related aspect that both functions should work on together on this aspect is that it's about the consolidation of the data, including all the disciplinary measures taken over a specific period. So this data should be also cross-matched with the associated misconduct behavior that led to the disciplinary measures, as well as the conclusions from the investigation and whether management follow its recommendations. So you can also identify trends for further discussions, maybe decision making, and certain further improvements.
And having that data is ever more important as governments look to organizations to be able to demonstrate what they're doing in their compliance program, not anecdotally, but by using real data. So, finally, a strong corporate culture depends on hiring the right people. How can we work with HR to become a part of the hiring process and the onboarding?
Well, on this aspect, HR is often the first point of contact for potential hires. So it's crucial that they convey the company's ethical standards from the outset. So this is especially important today, as for example, and based on many surveys that we can read that Gen Z, for example, candidates often prioritize organizational culture, ethics, and conduct when choosing an employer. So they expect transparency, inclusivity, and a strong commitment to certain ethical practices. So for that, I would say compliance can equip HR with information about the company's compliance and ethical commitments, enabling the HR function to effectively address candidate specific questions on this area. And on the other hand, compliance can also help with crafting and fine tuning job descriptions to ensure that the ethical and compliance aspects are well represented. Also, I would say both functions should also ensure that the set of questions asked during interviews, especially for management and leadership roles, properly address these ethical and compliance aspects, ensuring that the company hires the right profile. And speaking of that, it's also important to ensure that the hiring panel is diverse enough. So not just in terms of gender, but also including diverse backgrounds and ethnicities to minimize unconscious bias and promote inclusivity and equity and to better align with the ethical standards and compliance requirements in general. And maybe also next to that, also it's common practice to ensure that we ask relevant compliance questions during applications and interviews to identify any actual or even potential or perceived personal related conflicts of interest, such as familial relationships with current employees or other conflicting situations like outside activities of the candidates and sometimes of the family members as well. All of that in order to assess and address them properly. So, and this is about the hiring process. Regarding the onboarding process itself, HR and compliance can collaborate to include more ethics and compliance into the company's induction program, for example, and also into the onboarding training. So, for instance, new hires can complete online training courses on the company's code of conduct and speak up reporting mechanisms. So, and next to that, you can think of also for interactive workshops can also help new hires understand and embrace the company's values and ethical and compliance standards from day one. So by working together, HR and compliance can ensure that new hires are well versed in the company's ethical standards, setting the tone for a strong corporate culture right from the start.
And there's nothing better than starting in the right place when it comes to compliance and ethics. Well, Asaf, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen. I'm Adam Turtletaub from SCCE and HCCA. I hope we're able to expand your compliance perspective.